Kirk Franklin's family drama has just taken a disturbing new turn. His son, Kerrion, who once leaked that infamous, profanity-laced recording of the gospel legend, is now back, but this time with something far more shocking. Graphic photos allegedly showing years of parental abuse are surfacing, and the internet is in chaos. Is this a cry for help, a desperate attempt to bring his father down, or the painful truth finally coming to light? Stick around, because what we uncovered will change how you see this story forever. Kirk Franklin is one of the most recognizable names in gospel music, a man who has built his career on faith, family, and uplifting messages. But behind the Grammy Awards, sold-out shows, and inspirational words lies a personal story that has often been anything but holy. Over the years, his relationship with his eldest son, Kerrion Franklin, has become one of the most controversial sagas in gospel and entertainment news. You might remember when Kerrion leaked that shocking audio clip back in 2021, where Kirk Franklin could be heard unleashing a profanity-filled tirade against him. That moment set the internet on fire, dividing fans between those who sympathized with Kerrion and those who defended his father. For many, it was the first real glimpse into the complicated and messy father-son relationship that had been brewing behind the scenes for years. But now things have escalated even further. Kerrion has resurfaced with disturbing, graphic photos that he claims are proof of years of parental abuse. The images are sparking outrage, disbelief, and heated debates across social media. Are these images authentic? Do they tell the whole story? Or is there more to this than meets the eye? In this video, we're breaking down everything we know about this explosive situation. We'll cover the history of Kirk Franklin and his son's feud, the release of these graphic images, the reactions from the gospel community, and the bigger question of what this means for both their legacies moving forward. You won't believe some of the details we've uncovered. And by the end of this, you'll see why this father-son feud has become one of the most talked about scandals in gospel music history. So stay tuned, because this story is layered with drama, pain, and unanswered questions. And just when you think you know the truth, another shocking detail emerges. To understand the latest shocking claims, we have to go back and look at the long, complicated history between Kirk Franklin and his eldest son, Kerrion, because what's happening today didn't come out of nowhere. It's the result of years of tension, broken trust, and very public battles that have spilled out into the media for all of us to see. Kirk Franklin is often celebrated as the king of gospel. His music has inspired millions, and his career spans decades. But behind the polished image of faith and family, his relationship with Kerrion has always been rocky. Kerrion, who is now in his mid-30s, has been open about feeling neglected and mistreated by his father. In interviews and social media posts, he has repeatedly described their relationship as toxic, claiming that he never felt truly accepted by Kirk or embraced as part of the family. For years, these issues stayed mostly behind the scenes, but in 2021, everything changed. That's when Kerrion released the infamous audio recording of a phone call with his father. In the clip, Kirk could be heard unleashing a string of expletives, angrily cursing his son out in a way that shocked fans who only knew the gospel star as a man of God. Within hours, the recording went viral. Kerrion insisted that he released the audio to show people the kind of abuse he had endured for years, while Kirk apologized publicly, admitting that the call was real but explaining that his relationship with his son had been difficult for a long time. That moment was a turning point. Fans of Kirk Franklin were divided. Some believed Kerrion and sympathized with his pain, suggesting that Kirk's public image didn't reflect who he really was behind closed doors. Others defended Kirk, arguing that every parent can lose their temper and that Kerrion was only trying to tear his father down by exposing private family drama to the world. But the truth is that recording was just the tip of the iceberg. Since then, Kerrion has continued to hint at deeper family wounds. He's made claims about being excluded from family gatherings, being treated differently from his younger siblings, and carrying emotional scars that never healed. At the same time, Kirk Franklin has tried to balance addressing the controversy with protecting his career and his reputation in the gospel community. The dynamic between them seems to be one of constant push and pull, moments of attempted reconciliation followed by explosive fallout. And while many hoped that time would heal their wounds, Kerrion's latest move suggests the opposite. Instead of finding peace, the situation appears to have escalated to a level nobody expected. Because now Kerrion isn't just speaking out. He's showing what he claims is physical evidence of abuse. Graphic photos that are stirring anger, disbelief, and a firestorm of conversation about what really happened between father and son. And if you thought the leaked audio was shocking, the release of these images takes the controversy to a whole new level. But here's the question that has everyone divided. Are these images genuine proof of abuse, or are they part of a bigger attempt to damage Kirk Franklin's name and career? The answer isn't simple, and that's exactly why this story has people glued to every update. The feud between Kirk Franklin and Kerrion was already one of the most talked about scandals in gospel music. But when Kerrion decided to share what he describes as proof of the abuse he suffered, the conversation shifted from family drama to something far more disturbing. Recently, Kerrion posted several graphic photos online, which he claimed showed the aftermath of physical abuse at the hands of his father. The images quickly spread across social media platforms. Screenshots, retweets, and reposts turned them into viral talking points within hours. Some of the photos appeared to show visible injuries and bruises, while others were more ambiguous, leaving room for interpretation. Now, here's where the controversy deepens. Kerrion didn't just drop these images without context. He framed them as long-suppressed evidence of what he endured during his upbringing, claiming that for years, nobody believed him when he spoke about the trauma he carried. By releasing these photos, he seemed to be saying, "Here's the proof you've all been asking for." The public reaction was explosive. On one side, many social media users expressed outrage and sympathy, rallying behind Kerrion and condemning Kirk Franklin. Hashtags calling out the alleged abuse trended for hours. People were quick to draw connections between the leaked audio from 2021 and these newly surfaced images, arguing that the two incidents taken together painted a consistent picture of a broken family dynamic. But on the other side, skeptics immediately questioned the validity of the photos. Some asked whether they were recent or from Kerrion's childhood. Others wondered why these images were only coming to light now, years after the initial recording scandal. And a vocal group of Kirk Franklin's supporters outright dismissed the images, calling them misleading, staged, or irrelevant to the truth. This division has fueled heated debates across platforms like X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, and even YouTube reaction channels. Fans of gospel music, people of faith, and even casual followers of celebrity news are weighing in, with opinions split right down the middle. Religious communities, in particular, are struggling to process these revelations. Kirk Franklin has long been a role model in Christian spaces, a man who overcame his own difficult childhood and used his platform to inspire others. For many churchgoers, the idea that he could be involved in something as dark as parental abuse feels almost impossible to reconcile. Yet others argue that the church has a long history of ignoring uncomfortable truths and that Kerrion's voice deserves to be heard no matter how difficult it is to accept. Beyond the gospel community, entertainment blogs and mainstream outlets have picked up the story, amplifying the drama even further. Headlines frame the release of the photos as the latest chapter in a family feud that refuses to die down. And every time the story resurfaces, It not only brings fresh attention to Kerrion, but also reopens wounds for Kirk Franklin, who has worked tirelessly to protect his public image. The most chilling part of this is the way Kerrion has framed his intentions. He isn't just airing dirty laundry. He's positioning himself as someone who has been silenced for years, and now finally has the chance to prove his truth. But here's the catch. In an age of digital manipulation, skepticism is unavoidable. The question becomes, do these images actually confirm his claims, or do they raise more questions than answers? And that's where this story takes another unexpected turn. Because while the internet debates whether these photos are authentic or exaggerated, some insiders have begun to speak up, sharing their own insights and perspectives on the Franklin family dynamic. But here's the shocking twist. Some of these voices aren't defending Kirk, and others aren't siding with Kerrion either. Instead, they suggest the truth may lie somewhere in the messy middle, where pain, misunderstanding, and years of unresolved conflict have created a cycle that neither father nor son has been able to escape. And trust me, what we're about to uncover next digs even deeper into that possibility. When scandals like this erupt, the spotlight doesn't just fall on the two people at the center. It often shines on everyone connected to them. And in this case, the Franklin family has been forced once again to deal with the fallout of a deeply personal feud playing out in front of millions. For Kirk Franklin, who has always carefully balanced his public image as both a gospel superstar and a family man, the release of these graphic photos couldn't come at a worse time. Insiders close to Kirk describe him as being deeply hurt and frustrated that his son continues to wage what they call a public campaign against him. One family friend even suggested that Kirk feels blindsided, believing that he has tried, though not always perfectly, to keep the door open for reconciliation. But when it comes to the family's official response, things have been quieter than you might expect. Kirk has not directly addressed the latest wave of accusations on his social media platforms. Instead, he's continued posting updates about his music, his faith journey, and his projects, almost as though he's refusing to give this drama more oxygen. To some fans, that silence speaks volumes. They see it as a sign that he's avoiding accountability. To others, it's proof of maturity that he refuses to engage in a back-and-forth battle with his own child online. Now, while Kirk remains relatively quiet, the whispers from those who know the family best suggest that behind closed doors, the tension is unbearable. Several insiders claim that Kerrion has long felt excluded from the family circle. They argue that part of his anger stems from feeling like the forgotten son, overshadowed by Kirk's successful career and the seemingly picture-perfect family that Kirk has built with his wife, Tammy, and their younger children. On the flip side, others point out that Kerrion has struggled with personal issues that have made reconciliation difficult. Past reports have hinted at mental health challenges and strained communication, factors that complicate the narrative and make it harder to view the situation in simple black and white terms. Those closest to the family often describe this as less of a battle between good and evil, and more of a tragic cycle where both father and son are carrying scars from years of unresolved conflict. But here's where it gets interesting. Some industry insiders in the gospel and entertainment world have quietly suggested that Kirk Franklin's carefully managed public image might not tell the whole story. They hint that while Kirk is undoubtedly a talented and influential figure, he is also human, capable of anger, mistakes, and failings like anyone else. For those critics, Kerrion's photos and accusations aren't just shocking. They're a reminder that even the most celebrated leaders can have cracks in their foundations. Still, for every critic, there's an equally strong wave of defenders. Prominent gospel artists and church leaders have subtly, and sometimes openly, stood by Kirk, praising him as a man of integrity who has inspired millions. Their message is clear. Don't be so quick to tear down a man who has dedicated his life to uplifting others. And then there are the fans, thousands of them, who are split right down the middle. Scroll through the comment sections of Instagram or X posts about this scandal, and you'll see it play out in real time. Some accuse Kerrion of doing anything to bring his father down, while others plead with people to stop silencing victims of abuse. The debate is raw, emotional, and filled with passion on both sides. Here's the twist. While the public debates and insiders whisper, what remains missing is a direct, transparent conversation between Kirk and Kerrion themselves. Years of silence, half-statements, and public meltdowns have left everyone guessing. And until the two of them face this head-on, whether privately or publicly, the cycle of accusation and denial is bound to continue. But what happens when the fight between father and son no longer stays contained to their family circle? What happens when it spills into the wider gospel community, forcing leaders, artists, and even fans to confront uncomfortable truths about their role in all of this? When a controversy like this breaks out, especially one involving a figure as central as Kirk Franklin, it doesn't just stay a family issue. It ripples outward into the gospel community, the church world, and even mainstream media. What we're seeing right now is not just a family feud, it's a crisis that forces fans, pastors, and gospel leaders to reckon with how they view accountability, forgiveness, and truth. Kirk Franklin has always been more than just a gospel artist. For decades, he's been a bridge builder between church culture and mainstream music. He's collaborated with hip-hop and R&B artists, brought gospel into the charts, and made faith-centered music accessible to younger generations. To many people, Kirk isn't just a singer. He's a symbol of hope, perseverance, and inspiration. That's why the allegations and images being shared by his son cut so deep. They don't just challenge Kirk's personal reputation. They shake the image of an entire movement that has long held him up as a role model. Within gospel circles, the reactions have been mixed. Some pastors and artists are rallying behind Kirk, urging fans not to judge too quickly and to remember his decades of service. They argue that everyone has family struggles and that we can't fully understand what happens behind closed doors. Others, however, say this moment is a wake-up call, that the church has too often ignored or silenced difficult conversations about abuse, anger, and dysfunction within families, especially when it comes to high-profile leaders. One striking aspect of this debate is how generational it is. Older churchgoers often lean toward protecting Kirk Franklin, seeing him as a spiritual leader who has earned grace and forgiveness. Younger voices, however, particularly those active on platforms like TikTok and X, are far more willing to challenge him. For them, Kerrion's photos and accusations highlight a bigger issue: the need to believe survivors and to question authority figures, even when they're beloved. This generational clash reflects a larger cultural shift. We're living in a time when transparency is demanded, where celebrities are called out for their private actions, and where silence can often do more damage than words. For Kirk Franklin, this means that even if the accusations are untrue or exaggerated, the lack of a clear response risks creating more doubt than clarity. But here's where the situation gets even more complicated. Some gospel fans argue that by constantly airing his grievances online, Kerrion is doing more harm than good. They say that whatever truth might exist in his story is being overshadowed by the perception that he's lashing out publicly for attention or revenge. Others counter that this is the only way he can be heard, that when you're up against a powerful figure with influence, money, and reputation, the internet becomes your courtroom. The public debate has also spilled into mainstream entertainment spaces. Gossip blogs, talk shows, and even podcasts are dissecting the feud, framing it as both a celebrity scandal and a cautionary tale. Some frame it as a father-son tragedy, others as a commentary on how fame complicates family relationships. What unites them all is the recognition that this story resonates because it feels both extraordinary and painfully relatable. Almost everyone knows someone with a complicated family history, but when it plays out in the public eye, it magnifies the pain and drama to an entirely different level, and the gospel community isn't immune to the pressure. Pastors are being asked to comment, fans are asking tough questions, and even fellow artists are being drawn into the storm. The debate has become not just about Kirk Franklin versus Kerrion Franklin, but about what happens when faith, fame, and family collide in ways that test everything we think we know about forgiveness and accountability. But this is where things take an even darker turn, because while the gospel community debates and while fans argue online, Kerrion himself is doubling down. He isn't backing away from his claims. In fact, he's pushing harder, releasing more statements, more context, and more hints that the story goes deeper than anyone realizes.